world. And financial institutions have only now just figured this out.
The first futures ETF tied to Bitcoin.
This thing is becoming increasingly entangled with the mainstream financial markets.
The world's going there.
Bank of America is now fully engaging in analysis of crypto broadly.
Never at any point have we had the freedom of financial mobility that we do have now with blockchain and DeFi.
It is a power to the people kind of technology. We're moving to a new kind of world now where users own their own data and they get to run their own financial services.
However, we are still tied to the centralized banking system in a way that is unnecessary.
The crypto sector today is largely unregulated.
This is a little bit like the American Wild West.
Essentially what DeFi is, it's like a big casino.
That's scary to the JP Morgans because they're seeing all this growth and they're left out.
You all can do whatever you want and I don't care.
You're either in or out. There's no in between.
It's pretty much full service shadow banking with nobody in charge.
There's an old adage in technology where they say software is going to eat everything. And one can say very clearly that blockchain is going to eat everything.
We're seeing a revolution unfold right now. These are historic times.
Buckle your seatbelt. This is where the ride gets really interesting. My jacket's in 414 or something. We got the presidential suite downstairs for the after party. And I left my jacket there, and I just Irish exit my way out. Coffee, black. Bitcoin was the beginning. Right? Bitcoin is where it all started.
What are cryptocurrencies? They're a type of digital money, but instead of being controlled by a central government, they're decentralized using blockchain technology.
The impetus was the financial crash of 2008, right? That's in the white paper of Bitcoin.
2008 and Bitcoin gave us the first spark that we needed in order to, start the fire.
We had the same basically financial systems in place for hundreds of years, and now we have this new type of ledger that's actually self-auditing by the virtue of being decentralized. So that is really the core of this technology.
So what was once very obscure magic internet money is now a global financial infrastructure that anybody can build on and anybody can access.
And what this whole movement has grown into has been like an evolution of the technology. The vision has really always been the same. Decentralizing, democratizing, turning power to users of finance or really any web-based application.
So we're effectively building an entire world ourselves. Like $2 trillion industry bubbled up and
soon a majority of the world will make their money. I don't mean that a majority.
This is super new. If you think about Bitcoin, again, the most mainstream digital asset in the cryptocurrency universe, that was only released in 2008, and it really didn't come into a mainstream consciousness until 2017. One of the best ways to view the maturation of Bitcoin is if you look at mining. This used to be something that you could mine in your dorm room. I know a few people who did that, to now you basically have to have a very sophisticated operation to really mine Bitcoin at scale. To solve these increasingly complex computer problems, that takes a lot of electricity.
Bit Digital is a Bitcoin miner, and we've been mining Bitcoin in various states like Nebraska, New York, Georgia, and Texas, and so on. Bit Digital in particular looks for clean sources of power in order to power our computers that help solve these mathematical problems.
Can't hear a damn thing in here.
This is our warehouse in Kearney, Nebraska. Over here we've got a bunch of unboxed units. There's about 2,000 here. And frankly, it's not great to see them sitting here in boxes because they could be plugged in and making money. What are these, M21s?
Yeah, these are M20s.
M20s. Depending on the model and the exact moment you buy them, are going to cost $10,000 to $15,000 a piece. They're a lot heavier than they look. And you plug it in and it starts making this commodity we know as Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the mother coin. It's the first blockchain. But I think beyond that, Bitcoin has had a bit of a democratizing effect. It's created opportunities to generate capital who wouldn't have had access to that before. You know, that was enabled by Bitcoin, and now it's spread to a bigger ecosystem. The basic business model of Bitcoin mining has traditionally been to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible and hold that Bitcoin for its appreciation potential. But there's a broader vision here. Lending, borrowing, stock exchanges, currency exchanges, insurance, derivatives, all of these now have their facsimiles in the digital realm, which have been created with code rather than with brick-and-mortar institutions. And this is the landscape that we are thinking of when we say the word DeFi.
Trying to study and wrap my head around DeFi a lot more lately. 4 or 5 years ago, everything we were doing was really oriented around Bitcoin and its growing ecosystem. Over the past few years, in contrast, everything has been oriented around DeFi.
DeFi is a collection of software projects that run on the blockchain that enable a host of money activities, things like lending and borrowing, swapping or trading of different assets, the creation of new asset classes like NFTs.
You go and deposit money to bank and what? You get 0.75% interest at best depositing in a bank, but then they loan it out at 10% to 20% to people. So they're making 20 times the money that they're giving you in return. Whereas like DeFi can definitely change that paradigm.
There are two promises to DeFi, and I think they broadly fork. So you have the idea of financial inclusion, where people who do not have access to financial services can get that access. And then you have the idea that for the rest of the world that already had access to financial services, we're now switching from snail mail to email. And I think it's exciting and unknown what emergent properties will come out of that when you can transact much faster and in a much more trustless way. I don't need 5 people to guarantee that a transaction is going to happen if I can just automate it through code.
Because the code is available for anybody to see, and that code is immutable, you should be able to simply look at that and say, yes, this code is doing what that person is saying they're going to do. I can verify, not trust.
The decentralized finance system is, we believe, a disruptive technology, not unlike the early days of the internet, that is eventually going to replace large swaths of the financial and monetary system as we know it.
The potential for it to really disrupt finance and the banking system, a lot of that is still very much a dream, a vision of the crypto community, but its potential applications are enormous for sure. If you think about the overall cryptocurrency universe, that's estimated to be $3 trillion. Estimates for how much of that is in DeFi is in the hundreds of billions, 250 billion.
The speed of innovation is incredible, this compounding exponential innovation. And it's driven by the openness of the community, both from a software perspective, but also a really genuine desire to continue to add to innovations.
The blockchain is the underpinning of all of this change.
So blockchain is the record-keeping technology. It's this decentralized public ledger where all of these cryptocurrency transactions are recorded anonymously. So the cryptocurrency is the medium of exchange, and the blockchain is where that's all recorded.
Blockchain is good at 3 things. It's good at storing information, security, and allowing anyone to audit it. That is the ultimate weapon, dare I say, to fight back against people who have been hiding information, who have been threatening security, who have been manipulating information.
It's a decentralized system. No one owns or controls or runs it. Meaning, if you wanted to stop this thing that's facilitating this change, how do you do it? Where's the leader? Where's the CEO? Where's the company? There isn't one. You can't shut down that system, and it's the most secure system the world has ever seen. And so that is what makes this all possible.
The next evolution for a lot of people is then the Ethereum network.
Ethereum has expanded the possibilities of what can be done with this technology.
We understood that the technology worked. From there, it was kind of like a very quick click.
Hi, my name is Joseph Lubin. Yeah, so I was one of 8 original
co-founders of Ethereum. So the Ethereum project set out to become a new trust foundation for the planet, to essentially affect a paradigm shift in how the world organizes itself. In order to be a new trust foundation, you need to be massively decentralized in as many dimensions of decentralization as you can identify. And the new trust foundation gives us things like digital scarcity. It gives us trustworthy collaboration. It enables us to transact between people who don't know one another, just because you can trust the programs that are guaranteed to execute on the blockchain. It seemed very natural to call this emerging decentralized protocol, blockchain, cryptocurrency set of technologies Web3.
What is Web3? Can you explain it simply?
Let's start with Web 1. How about that? Web 1, for the first time, we had access to information.
Welcome.
We had this kind of real idealistic notion of knowledge and communication and information.
Goodbye.
Web 2 happened. We saw big consolidation, Facebook, Twitter, so on and so forth. And Web 3 is really taking the ideals of Web 1 and kind of solidifying them in a meaningful way.
Web3 is really shorthand for a world where the users are creating the value, but also capturing the value, something that was totally lost with the Facebooks and the Googles and the Amazons of the world.
The people, the users, are the ones that have much more power, they're able to create much more value, and also are able to consequently capture some of that value.
It's known as this amalgamation of these different decentralized technologies and this new world, essentially, that we're creating.
The first wave of the internet, took multiple years. Web 2 unfolded over the course of 10, 12 years. And so Web 3, it's just beginning.
And so that's the phase that we're in right now. Early on, we built smart contracts.
Probably the most interesting part of the Ethereum network is that it uses smart contracts, which are basically these self-executing contracts based on preset conditions.
And when those conditions take place, there's an exchange of value that happens automatically.
If then, this that.
If you think about the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, or if you think about simply buying or selling stock in your brokerage account, there are fees paid that are associated with doing that. Contrast that with clicking a button on your computer without any human beings touching it and without any transaction fees. That becomes much more efficient from an economic perspective for the user.
What we've done is we've identified certain DeFi protocols, and you could generate a very good return.
It's all governed by code. It's just software running in the cloud. There aren't armies of human beings working in office towers, earning bonuses to facilitate this. We're not participating in DeFi at this time just because there's too much regulatory uncertainty for a public company. So what we're doing right now in the interim is we're studying it.
My name is Tim Masson. I was formerly the chairman of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. Well, the crypto sector today is largely unregulated. It's hard to know whether a particular DeFi app is going to work as promised, or whether it was created by reputable people, unless you've done a lot of due diligence.
How can a typical person even begin to say, identify, or what a good project is in this space?
I mean, there's no question that the token economy is a very volatile asset class to be involved in.
There's tens of thousands of cryptocurrencies and NFTs being created every day, and some of these things are going to go off a cliff to zero. And so buyer beware.
The obvious risk is that, there is no counterparty to fall back on. If you do lose your money somehow, which theoretically you're not supposed to be able to with a smart contract, there's no recourse here. You don't have a counterparty to turn back to. That's why prime brokers exist. That's why they calculate risk rules. That's why exchanges facilitate these transactions. But by removing them, you also remove that buffer.
Right now, if I mistype the address in Ethereum, that money could be gone forever, right? And my Aunt Matilda can't lose her life savings using Ethereum that way. It's just not usable, sustainable for somebody like her. So in order to go mainstream, you may need to invite some centralized aspects.
Most of us can't spend hours figuring out if a particular DeFi app is going to work as promised or studying the code. So we rely on others for expertise, for certain services, and intermediaries often perform those functions. The real value of a regulatory framework is that it gives people confidence. It gives them confidence that whatever financial activity they're participating in or intermediary they're relying on is going to do what it promised, that they're not going to be the victim of fraud and manipulation, that no one's going to abscond with their money.
This is a little bit like the American Wild West, right? Like there's this cutting edge frontier out there, free land, stake your claim on the potential gold rush, right? But when you get out there, it's, hey, there's people trying to rob you and there's scams going on.
Blockchain and cryptocurrencies are a disruptive technology. They're a young technology. There will be exploits.
But federal investigators say a Wild West culture has led to a massive spike in cryptocurrency scams.
There are a whole list of problems with crypto. Unreliable tech, scams.
You have like these Ponzi scheme projects where their tokens are basically crap coins, right? Or you have these other projects where you deposit your liquidity and then they do a rug pull where they basically steal the money out from under you. Or basically these just fly-by-night projects where they never really had the intention to build it, but they just kind of strung you along and then they close up shop eventually.
Regulators need to step up to address crypto's regulatory gaps and ensure that we're actually building the inclusive financial system that we need.
Essentially what DeFi is, it's like a big casino. It provides people with an opportunity to make potentially huge gains or potentially lose a ton of money. But for the people who end up being the house, running the casino, it's pretty much guaranteed gain. The intermediaries, they're the exchanges, they're the DeFi platforms. And beyond that, they don't have any of the regulations that guarantee safety, soundness, and protect customers. It may ultimately produce some really useful innovations, but for the time being, it's pretty much full-service shadow banking with nobody in charge.
Throughout the financial system, we have what are known as know your customer requirements, which means that banks, brokers, and other financial actors have to verify the identity of their customer. And that is a means to prevent illicit activity. It also helps reduce fraud. The DeFi sector will have to figure out how to do this. And I think really the only way the sector can grow and become mainstream is if you have a regulatory framework that sets some baseline standards.
We welcome regulation. We're eager for it because we need clarity, and there's so much opportunity in the space we want to participate in. What I'd say is that we're hopeful that the regulation is crafted in a way that protects individual investors and spurs innovation and doesn't just protect the interests of incumbent financial institutions.
So what are these guys doing? Why are they going to these great lengths? Are they trying to bring about a more stable, equitable, inclusive kind of finance? Or are they looking to get rich? I would tend to believe the latter.
Miami has a very crypto-friendly vibe, and I think the industry is taking off.
It's hard to imagine what decentralization looks like. You come here though and you see real people who you've met online, or hey, I threw this Metaverse party and you were there and I'm meeting you in real life.
There's all these people who love all these esoteric pieces of the cryptocurrency universe that now come together and they can share the things that they're passionate about. They can share their enthusiasm. They can share their expertise.
Their minds are open to ideas, to dreaming, to thinking big, to thinking differently.
We're reimagining money, we're recreating this equality future. I think we're going to slowly change this disparity between the rich and the poor.
This whole event here is still very, very early compared to what's going to happen and what's about to happen in crypto and NFTs in this space in general.
DeFi is actually in the heart, in the skin, everything.
of what we do.
It's exciting to see how many people are getting into this space. Art has sort of joined forces with tech.
There's enough space for everyone in here.
So we're living in the early days of a massive paradigm shift. We are accelerating into a digitized and decentralized future where there will be a better trust foundation. So similar to how web technology and internet technology brought democracy and democratization to access to information, we're bringing technologists and entrepreneurs in to democratize global finance.
So I actually just left my job for 10 years at Goldman Sachs as a VP in the risk division, covering hedge funds and prime services. My last day, I caught a flight to come to this convention and really start participating in the decentralized finance space. As I started to realize, the lack of necessity of my own role that I was building, my legacy helps a system that I don't believe is fully necessary anymore. And a system that doesn't benefit the broad public or communities that really need it.
It's hard to read, but if you look at the placard for the convention, the Wi-Fi password is kind of self-evident about how a lot of these people here feel.
There's an entire financial ecosystem that's being modeled and created and championed by, a bunch of apes or, other kind of avatars. And that's scary to the JP Morgans because, again, they're seeing all this growth and they're left out.
Jamie Dimon has a very specific opinion on cryptocurrency. He really thinks it's a scam.
I could care less what Bitcoin trades for, how it trades, why it trades, who trades it. If you're stupid enough to buy it, you'll pay the price for it one day.
But that doesn't stop JP Morgan from having an entire department devoted to blockchain technology.
There are so many people involved in the traditional banking system. I don't think the goal is to remove them, but the question is, what is necessary? Should we be doing things the way we're doing them today simply because we've always done that? We don't do that with telephones. We don't do that with cars. We don't do that with all the other technology. However, we are still tied to the centralized banking system in a way that is unnecessary.
So major financial institutions are for the large part, aware of the technology. Many of them have strict regulation that they have to pay attention to and are constrained by. Maybe some of them will put their head in the sand and think all of this will go away. They won't last very long, I assume.
It's either come in and participate or basically die, right? Or get displaced in some form or fashion.
So I know that banks are working on their own blockchain solutions. They're keeping up with everything that's going on, and it's the same with the governments. They're not really talking about this stuff, but they're there. They're listening and they're learning because they know that this is the future.
As you think about the billions of people that are coming onto the internet the first time, having an internet native financial infrastructure is going to allow all of these people that are normally unbanked to become banked. And it's definitely going to be very big for financial inclusivity across the entire world.
We're not waiting for the big banks to open the door. We're not waiting for the Federal Reserve to give a thumbs up. People are able to create and cultivate their own communities, their own ideas, their own products, and capture more of that value directly with fewer middlemen. That's really the promise of blockchain.
And so we're at that stage of this industry's development where everybody's starting to get it. Consensus is being reached amongst all the industries that this is real and it ain't going anywhere.
I'm feeling so much more in control of my health, thanks to Flow.
Flow's the female health app that transforms your relationship with your body and cycle.
daily lives.
During the financial crisis in 2008, a mysterious figure called Satoshi Nakamoto published this 9-page white paper. It said, with Bitcoin's open source software, we can create our own money without banks or governments. This new nerd money, called cryptocurrency, is created and stored in computers. And before long, there was a growing fan club, mostly guys like Roger Ver. Today, he's a polarizing figure, but back then he gave away thousands of coins to kickstart the movement, and they all called him Bitcoin Jesus.
I think that for many years, he brought more people to Bitcoin than anyone else, and we will forever be grateful to him for doing that.
When I was a kid, I was reading all these science fiction books. They were talking about how the world is going to be when we have this like anonymous digital cash that people can use on the internet that's not controllable by anybody. And then when Bitcoin came along, it was like, wow, this science fiction money that I had been reading about as a kid is finally here. So I got so excited about it. I heard about it at about 10 in the morning. I was planning to go to work that day, but I didn't. I stayed home the entire day reading about it. Didn't leave out, stayed up all night that night reading about it. Stayed up all night the next night reading about it.
He went deep down that rabbit hole to the point of physical exhaustion.
The hospital, so I called up a friend of mine and said, please help me, I'm so sick, can you bring me to the hospital?
Yeah, Roger got bit bad by the Bitcoin bug.
Because it's truly one of the most exciting inventions ever in the entire history of humankind.
But how does it work? When my friends ask me to explain, well, I often start with this analogy.
Imagine a bank vault where you have a safety deposit box. Your key opens one of the boxes, where you can securely store physical valuables like gold coins. In Bitcoin, there are digital keys. Think of them as very long passwords. Your private key gives you access to a wallet, which unlocks billions of unique Bitcoin addresses. Each one is a virtual safety deposit box that only you can open with your key. And there are more addresses in this virtual vault than atoms in the universe. The doors to these boxes are transparent. You can see inside them. Here's one with digital money, 0.21 Bitcoins. Sending them from one box to another is what's called a Bitcoin transaction. We'll explain that later. But for now, just remember that these digital coins can only exist inside these transparent address boxes, can't be copied, and can't ever leave the vault. And this vault is owned by no single entity. You don't need permission from a government, a bank, or a corporation to use it.
For most early adopters of Bitcoin, it was all about global peer-to-peer electronic cash. Room 77 in Berlin was one of the very first businesses to accept Bitcoins as payment for physical things, beers and burgers.
Back in 2011, there were no mobile wallets, right? So you had to go there, bring your laptop, type this long address, risk losing the money if you didn't type it correctly. So the first guy who built a mobile wallet was some guy in Berlin who built it in order to buy his beer with his phone instead of his computer.
Wir akzeptieren keine Kreditkarten.
Okay, was ist dein Problem mit Kreditkarten?
Mein Problem mit Kreditkarten ist, dass es mich als Merchant 3% Gebühren kostet, dass ich 180 Tage bangen muss, dass man mir mein Geld nicht wieder zurückholt.
Credit cards are an old technology and actually pretty complex, and your payment details are shared with many middlemen. Each of these parties are also taking a cut of the action, which is built into the price of nearly everything you buy. If you purchase something internationally, double the number of middlemen and triple the fees. Credit cards handle almost $20 trillion of transactions per year.
Early Bitcoin adopters like Room 77 avoided paying credit card fees. But Jörg's real beef was with the bankers who collect them. Was hast du für ein Problem mit Banken?
Das Problem, was ich mit Banken habe, ist, dass wir es in unserer Gesellschaft geschafft haben, mit den Banken eine unverhaftbare Kaste, eine nicht ins Gefängnis steckbare Verbrechersyndikate aufzubauen, die too big to fail, too big to jail. HSBC ist ein großartiges Beispiel mit 10.000-facher Beihilfe zum Mord. Da musste nicht mal jemand vor Gericht gehen, weil der oberste Staatsanwalt der USA klargestellt hat, können wir nicht machen, bricht die.
Galileo FX is trusted by more than 2,000 users worldwide to trade automatically. It's the perfect solution for auto trading gold, forex, stocks, indexes, and more. Auto trading is a style of trading that uses computer-based software to automatically execute trading orders in the market. Optimized for MetaTrader 4 and MT5, this trading robot enables you to auto-trade up to 20 charts at the same time. For example, you can trade 5 forex currencies.
Okay, wait. What do you think? What do you think the rigor and discipline is to deconstruct that last bit of conditioning? What do you think that process is?
Well, it's spending a lot of time. It's like going to the gym and bulking up. Like Frank. It's going through the process of the discipline of hitting those genres. I don't know. I generally do feel it's interesting. Like a friend was asking me, like, what are you thinking about? What's on your mind? I asked a girl that the other day, I was like, what are you thinking about? She gave me a really specific thing. She said, what are you thinking about? I said, nothing. Nothing at all. I can't conjure a thought. I mean, my mind is generating things, but I can't make it think for me. I don't know. It's interesting, like talking to people who have gone through a lot of this stuff. That I've taken ayahuasca, and I've just gone through so much profound suffering, so many dark nights of the soul. I'm sure there are there's conditioning left to undo. And I mean, I'm a white man, I grew up entitled and rich
Okay, wait. What do you think? What do you think the rigor and discipline is to deconstruct that last bit of conditioning? What do you think that process is?
Well, it's spending a lot of time. It's like going to the gym and bulking up. Like Frank. It's going through the process of the discipline of hitting those genres. I don't know. I generally do feel it's interesting. Like a friend was asking me, like, what are you thinking about? What's on your mind? I asked a girl that the other day, I was like, what are you thinking about? She gave me a really specific thing. She said, what are you thinking about? I said, nothing. Nothing at all. I can't conjure a thought. I mean, my mind is generating things, but I can't make it think for me. I don't know. It's interesting, like talking to people who have gone through a lot of this stuff. That I've taken ayahuasca, and I've just gone through so much profound suffering, so many dark nights of the soul. I'm sure there's conditioning left to undo. And I mean, I'm a white man, I grew up entitled and rich
Okay, wait. What do you think? What do you think the rigor and discipline is to deconstruct that last bit of conditioning? What do you think that process is?
Well, it's spending a lot of time. It's like going to the gym and bulking up. Like
That they said can't be done. Know thyself, then off thyself, selfless. Melting off the psychedelic. Galactic gang from galactic central sun. We do the thing that they said can't be done. Know thyself.